just so that we have it, so I don't forget. And then Lizzie's got the social media recap, and we'll talk some more about events and the Jarvis Square website. And then the voting items that we've got on today, we do have a BIP application from Factory, as well as some quotes to expand our SSA cameras into Jarvis, and also a new policy that we're sort of spinning off of the BIP program to address assisting businesses with repairing criminal damage to storefronts, because that's unfortunately been something that's come up several times here and in other SSAs. So we wanted to sort of standardize and codify the policy for that. So to go ahead and get us started, does anyone have anything for public comment? I know we have a couple people joining us today that are maybe not commissioners yet, but might be about to be or about to apply.
As far as public comment goes, I just want to say that a person that I'm familiar with, his name is Mark Ersfeld, and he is the assistant director at Howard Area Community Center now, and he expressed an interest in becoming a commissioner.
Great.
So, you know, perhaps we could reach out to him and give him an application and see what it's all about. He's a really great guy. He's been in social service work for a long time, and he's a good asset for our community.
Great. All right. Anyone else?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Lanice. This is my first time joining the meeting, and just wanted to say hello. I'm glad to be able to join in and kind of get more involved with the Rogers Park community. Really looking forward to it. Excited about coming back on the Howard Street side. I serve as the Howard Street Business Association president on the Evanston side. So I obviously have a very strong interest in working in the community, vested interest, and Rogers Park has just been, you know, near and dear to my heart. We've been there for, you know, we're on the Chicago side for 16 years. So very, very excited to, you know, be
That's
helpful
great.
in any way, and definitely contribute.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So I don't think we have quorum yet to approve minutes from January, but I will run through my slides on Live, Love, Shop recap first. Hopefully David or Gail jumps on the call. So yeah, Live, Love, Shop for 2021. So we're, you know, sort of wrapping up the data analysis and accounting on it now. So checks should be hitting the mail in a couple of weeks. I know our accountant's working on it. So this is our annual rebate program. People, you know, have to collect at least receipts from 4 different businesses of $25 or more, and can submit for different rebate levels based on, you know, the amount spent. So this year at a glance, participation was down sort of across the board. So we were at 108 participants that turned in receipts, down from 131 in 2020. But almost a third of those indicated that they didn't participate in the prior year. So, you know, we were attracting new folks to participate in the program for the first time. Across those 108 participants, we got receipts from 143 different businesses in the community. Pretty close to last year. It was a slight decline from 149, but, you know, still a pretty steady, you know, impact as far as the number of businesses people turned in receipts from. We've total spending impact of 26,000, down from 31,000 in 2020 and 32 in 2019. And then across the 521 individual transactions that were basically submitted, down from 652.
What did you think that was from? What did you think the decline was from? Do you think it was because of COVID?
Yeah, partly. So we sort of tried to compensate for it in that this was the second year that we allowed people to submit their receipts online. Previously, they had to come to the office during the appointed times, like during business hours, to submit everything. So we started allowing people to submit online last year. And, you know, I think it probably did help some, but I think that the trade-off was that, you know, because of COVID and in prior years, we have done postcards that we gave stacks to each of the businesses, and they were sticking them in takeout bags or, you know, boxes and things. So people had like a physical, you know, postcard with the link or the QR code on it for submitting. We didn't do that the last 2 years. And interestingly, one of the data points that we ask in the survey when people submit is, you know, how did you hear about the program, or what was the most influential like way that you heard about the program? And postcards has like consistently been like near the top of that. So I think that might be behind some of the decline. But you know, as far as most popular businesses, like the ones that were submitted the most frequency, so Moore's Fresh Market and Clark Devon Hardware are in the top 3, like pretty much every year. Devon Market, same thing. But we actually had several new businesses that appeared in the top 10 for the first time. So Horseplay, this is being their first year in operation, and an SSA 19 business. So that was really exciting to see. This was also the first time in the top 10 for Tamales Lo Mejor and Chapala on Clark Street. And both of those have been there for some time, but this is the first time that people, you know, really came out and submitted receipts from there. So that was kind of interesting to see. As far as most popular like business districts, like how each of the SSAs is represented among the totals, Clark Morris Glenwood, just because it's so big and includes the supermarkets, is pretty much always number 1. But this year is the first year that Howard has moved into number 2. And I think a lot of that is because of the merger with Jarvis. Previously, the Jarvis businesses were all in the no SSA category. Now that we're counting them as SSA 19, that becomes sort of the second place finisher as far as most popular business districts. In previous years, no SSA has been number 2, I think in large part because of the strength of the businesses on Jarvis. So it's neat to see, you know, the impact that's had on sort of pushing SSA 19 into number 2. And then it's cool. Just about a tie between no SSA and 54. We've got a list of sort of the top most popular businesses in each SSA. So for SSA 19, Horseplay was number 1, followed by Athena Board Games, did really well. Our Public House, Taste, Onto, Rogers Bar, Glasterius, Caribbean Bakery, so on and so forth. So yeah, the number 1 and number 3 and number 4 and number 5 were all businesses on Jarvis that would have been in that no SSA category in prior years. And congrats to Athena Board Games. That's really nice to see as well. What else have we got? You know, we played around with demographics a little bit, you know, kind of evenly spread by age. Kind of, you know, we only had one person that didn't fill this out, but then everyone else, you know, it kind of peaks around the 45 to 54 demographic, but it makes, you know, kind of a normal curve if you graph it. So, but yeah, you know, it's been sort of fun to play around with the data. But rebate checks should be going out to folks that submitted pretty soon. Any other questions on Live, Love, Shop? Want to keep that short so we get into the other stuff on the agenda.
Great.
Yeah. All right, back to, that's the wrong agenda. All right, social media recap. Lizzie, do you want me to make you host so you can run through that real quick?
Yes, that would be great.
All right, you should be all set. I can stop screen sharing this so you can get your slides up.
All right, perfect. All right. Morning, everybody.
Mornings. Morning.
Okay. So this is the monthly report. I'll walk through it. We're going to go through Facebook, Instagram, the website, and Google Ads. We've been talking about a Jarvis website, and this is, I think everybody or most people have seen this. So it would be similar to the Howard Street website, and connect to the Howard Street website. So there'd be like a portal that could take you from one to the other, but include photography, new photography from Jarvis, and stories and events. And we would build this in Squarespace like we do the Howard Street website. So Renee, it would be easy for you to get in there and add events, for instance, things like
Great.
that. So we're still in concept phase. Page reach, it's a little lower in January than December, but that's typical. We see a little less engagement in the past few years in January, but still like nothing to worry about, still within our reasonable or expected trends. We spent $175 in boosts and ads. Facebook has changed its ad policy, and so several of our ads got rejected. So it took us a little bit of the beginning of the month, didn't have as many likes campaigns, but we've solved that and we're back on track. We're still at 6,200 Facebook likes and approaching 1,000 Instagram followers. One thing you'll see in the audience is that one place to grow, and Lenise, I'm glad you're on the call for this, would be targeting Evanston and getting more people from Evanston to be following the accounts. So given that, we've been running this campaign featuring Lenise and Good to Go. And we also have photography from Peckish Pig, and I think Hip Circle and some other Evanston businesses that we're using to target Evanston. We're also targeting Chicago and using all the Chicago businesses. But it helps, a rising tide lifts all boats. It helps us to get people to the street and have a good experience. Badu every time, Badu always performs so well. His food, him as a person, always like skyrockets. So once again, Badu's post has reached almost 5,000 people with 82 reactions. So positive. Callie, I know last time we talked about how, Callie's just like a little bit needing a little help, a little support. So we've been focusing on including her in more posts and consistently. And then Hip Circle comes in at number 3 in terms of reach and reactions. So what I really like about that is the diversity of business owner, diversity of business type, diversity of location on Howard Street. It's kind of nice to see that in the top 3. And then here's more detail on them. We are posting the videos, reposting the videos that we created. And around Valentine's Day, we promoted the luxury dining pods at Good to Go with the Good to Go video. And the social media kit provided by RPBA was terrific. We posted several times about Shop Where Your Heart Is and boosted those posts as well. Web traffic has been higher than last month and holding pretty steady. So we normally get about 2,500 plus visits to the website per month. January is usually a little on the low side. And then Google ads are performing well. So this is if somebody's Googling, theaters in Rogers Park or what to do in Chicago, where to eat, in Rogers Park or what to do. This would target tourists and local tourists as well and get them to the website. And that's that. Any questions? Anything else people want to learn about?
The only thing I would probably add to that, Lizzie, with the January, that's actually really good because I've been talking with other businesses in Rogers Park, Andersonville, and even downtown. And it is by far the worst January any of us have ever seen. And some people have been in business for 20 years.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So the fact that you did have a little uptick, you knew it would be slower, but that's a good thing. So hopefully that'll make better February and March.
Got it. Okay.
So I do have some questions, if it's okay. So I'm just, scanning through the Howard Street website. And is it just kind of understanding the goal of the website is maybe when it was established, can you maybe just share what was the goal of the website?
Yeah, Sandy, do you want to take it or should I?
Yeah, so the website I think was set up when I was still working for Evanston at the time. But I mean, I think the idea was to, promote businesses and attract customers to the area to shop and dine at the businesses on Howard Street and sort of, put a positive narrative out there in social media and SEO around like Howard Street as a destination. Is that, sound about right, Lizzie and Sandy? Because you guys were working on it long before I was.
Yeah, and I can dig up the original presentation. We
we had a website before the website. So there was a website before A5 took our did what they did with our website, and the initial website was really just a list of Howard Street businesses. It was there were like pop-ups for events if we had events that were going on, but the website itself was pretty much a single page, and it was just businesses. And the goal at that time was to get the community to know what businesses were on Howard Street and the hopes of patronizing them. And then when A5 kind of took over, they created a much more robust website. And, we didn't have pictures of any of the restaurants or any of the businesses or anything. It was really just a list.
You remember, Sandy, you started from ground zero. There was nothing at all.
Okay. No, I just asked because it's we're talking about the amount of engagement. I was just wondering, like, is there anything built into it to cause engagement? It has information, about the different businesses. And then even when I look in now I'm not, I know a little bit about, some of this stuff, but I'm nowhere as savvy as Lizzie at all. But like when you hit the drop down that has the pages, it has, about Howard Street stories and videos, how experience Howard Street. And the Chalk Howard is there, and about Rogers Park. Is there any way that we can maybe add more things that makes it more engaging? Like if people want to, visit some of these places that they could, link to have a reserve, make a reservation, book an appointment, make a comment, post, like the pictures, like just, is there any opportunity to build on it to make it a little bit more robust with more content and more things to make it more engaging?
Or like, you mean like maybe more interactive?
More engaging, more so that people would like really seek it out, like because they feel like they're gonna get information, like like a calendar of events of all the businesses that may be having different things. That I know I've seen where the Valentine's, because and thank you so much for including Good to Go, in the advertisement. So I've seen lots of advertisement come through about different events that we're hosting, but is there like a calendar of events for the community and then like maybe for businesses that would make people want to engage more, want to seek it out more? Is there something where we could put on there, if you're looking for an apartment, you want to relocate to Rogers Park, here's some links of some apartment finders or some realtors. And I know it's Howard Street, and there are some residential properties on Howard Street. So, something like that. Are you guys hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there was like a little bit of not feedback, but maybe some interference or static. But I think we hear you all right. And I'll defer to Lizzie on this some, because we are getting ready to make some updates to the website in order to better incorporate Jarvis. So, maybe that is something that we look at in conjunction with that.
For the
Yeah.
Howard Street, so for the Howard Street website, it includes, okay. So because there is a Jarvis Street, there is a Jarvis website, right?
Yeah, it's something that Renee has been maintaining for some time, but in, now that Jarvis is part of the SSA, like, we want to sort of, bring a bit more coherence to the branding between the two. And so Lizzie had, at the last meeting, actually showed us sort of a mock-up of what the Jarvis sort of mirror site might look like. Lizzie, I don't know if you've got that handy to show us that again.
I think you're meaning this, right?
Yeah, so here's like a mock-up of what the Jarvis
Street would look
sort
like.
of side of the website, could be, keeping the branding, the font and logo mostly the same, but using a different color, so that it's, it's clear that you're looking at Jarvis now instead of Howard, but that it's, still in the same family, right?
Right. So Howard Street is not a standalone website.
It is currently,
Mhm.
but I think as we make these changes, it's going to be sort of partnered with Jarvis. So on the Jarvis page like this, so there's a button, the first button in the menu is to toggle over to Howard Street, and the Howard Street page will have that same button for Jarvis.
Okay. So yes, I was just wondering, is there any opportunity to just make the website more engaging, or add content to it that would make it more, make people seek it out, like the bakery. When I think about down where Charlotte is, her store is phenomenal. I love that place, but like including those interesting things that would make people want to, go to the site more. Because it's great now. The pictures are great, the businesses that are listed. But I just was wondering if there's any way we could, is there any opportunity to just make it more engaging?
Yeah, and just to answer it, kind of like in terms of capabilities, like anything is really possible. So, having an event listing, we've had that in the past. We got rid of it when COVID hit because all the events ended. And since then, we just want to make sure there's like balance across the different businesses. So it's not all one business's events all the time. But now that factory, that your shows are up and running, and that would be a good thing to bring back, and certainly like possible. And, it's kind of low hanging fruit. There could definitely be a resources page with, apartment listings, or I could see that linking back to RPBA. 'Cause I know your site has a lot of those kinds of resources that might fall into those categories. There's lots of things beyond that, and it just would matter. I would think, what are our goals for our audiences, and what's the budget, and then what's this group interested in? So there are sites where it's like a commerce site for multiple businesses, and we could sell online from like Lady B and Lost Areas right on the Howard Street site. So like that's a capability out there if you're interested in it. It could have more, it sounds maybe more like a map, or maybe something kind of interactive. You can also have like your Instagram feed load to a page. So I think there's like a lot of options. It would just kind of come down to what everybody's interested in and what we think would be best for our audience and within our budget.
Right. Because just couple ideas, like it's Black History Month. I didn't see any reference to Black history. If there's any business that's offering any type of events or activities or dining experiences. Rogers Park is a very diverse community. So having information about Black history, like I said, if there's any business that's having an experience or any activities or different things like that, a community calendar, what's going on in the community with the different businesses, or just if there are organizations that are hosting events and stuff like that. So I think that those are some of the things, that I would make it, make it more like, okay, I want to know what's going on in that, kind of Rogers Park, Howard Street, Jarvis, Evanston area, because I believe that, especially for Howard Street, including some of the things in South Evanston would make sense, or on the Evans, so that's just my 2 cents.
Sullivan High
So
School,
can I just add? So I'm sorry, Charlotte. Go ahead.
listen, Sullivan High School had, Black History Month. Okay, they had events every single day and a calendar. So everybody was like, costuming one week and, like dressing up like your favorite, character in Black history and like things like that. And, as Lenise is talking about this, I was thinking, it's maybe a good idea that we should reach out to what Sullivan High School is doing, because they had a whole thing planned for the whole month. And they were coming up to me, to get costumes and, stuff like that. But obviously we didn't acknowledge any of that. We could have, had something like that going. So possibly, Sandy, you guys could reach out to Sullivan High School. So maybe we could do something with their schedules, their calendar events.
So I just want to share that the Howard Street website was always intended to be for Howard Street. There is a calendar of events on the Rogers Park Business Alliance website that's more inclusive. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Can I add something here? Since I've been working on our public house website. We're taking it out of WordPress. So we basically started from scratch. The big thing that they told me, and this is probably going to make it a little easier, Lenise on Lizzie and Lizzie for you, is they had me pick the 3 favorite websites for businesses and send them or let them know what it was that I liked about them. So that way you're seeing what other people are doing, and we'll see if it's something that sort of fits in our model instead of, trying different things. I agree with you, Lenise, that being more interactive would be great. But if there's a website that that you like, I would let them know. So then we can sort of model that.
I love that idea.
Yeah, that's a great thought. And then Charlotte, when you guys mentioned Sullivan, that's a little bit harder because they're not, as closely integrated within like Howard Street specifically. But I was in a meeting last week with some of the local school council folks from Gale, which is in the middle of Howard Street. And they are getting ready to celebrate the school's centennial this year, which is really cool. So they're going to be doing some events around that that I think we would absolutely want to include, in any calendar or even probably some of the social media posts.
The reason I mentioned Sullivan is because I get a lot of the students from Sullivan. They like Howard Street. Who knows? Maybe if we do start using their calendar along, on the Howard Street thing, maybe we'll get more activity.
Yeah, I'm definitely some good thoughts. And I think, Sandy and I will be, continuing to confer with Lizzie and her team as we, undertake the project of getting Jarvis sort of added and getting that up and live on the website. This is going to be a time that we are looking at making some changes and updates to that. We've already got, a proposal for including that in budget this year. Likewise, we also had talked about doing another day of photo shoot for any businesses that missed it last time or have opened since we did it last, so that we can rotate some new faces in on the street pole banners and in the social media and website content as well. So just something to keep in mind. We haven't picked dates or anything yet. but it is something that we're looking to do again. I see David has joined us, so we do have quorum now. So I want to make sure that we do get through the items that actually need a vote. First among them being approval of the minutes from the January meeting. Those were sent around to everybody on, I think, Thursday or Friday last week. Does anybody want to make a motion on the minutes?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the minutes from January meetings.
All right. Do we have a second? All right, we have a second. All in favor? Great. All right. So the next like sort of couple of quick voting items that I do want to get through, you know, before we sort of circle back onto events in Jarvis Square website, which we got into a little bit. The first was camera expansion. So we did have some discussion at the last meeting about expanding the SSA camera system to add some additional street-facing outdoor pod cameras on Jarvis, which doesn't currently have any. So we did receive quotes for that. So the quote for adding some cameras on Jarvis, which I think he had quoted, I think 4 cameras plus, you know, the back end sort of equipment that's needed to run them, the DVR and hard drives and everything. So that quote came in at about $3,000. It was $2,996. So that quote's here. Is everybody seeing this on screen share?
I'm not seeing it.
The quote. Okay, you're still on the agenda.
I am.
All right, let me screen share
I'm
a
not
different
seeing
window.
anything at the moment.
All
We're only
right.
seeing all the people.
Okay, I will share. All right, how about now?
Yep.
There we go. Okay, so this is the quote from Ron at Audio Electronics. He's been sort of doing the maintenance and any upgrades on an as-needed basis for the existing cameras on Howard. So we did upgrade a bunch of them last year. So yeah, it's about $3,000 to add some cameras on Jarvis, is the quote that he provided based on the site visit that he did. And then Charlotte had also proposed adding some additional cameras near her building at the corner of Howard, Rogers, and Greenview. That was also 4 cameras. And the quote for that one was $1,977. Because the reason for the difference being that those cameras would be plugging into equipment that's already there. We don't already have equipment on Jarvis, so they would need to sort of be starting from scratch on that one, which is why it's more, because we don't have a DVR or any of the other stuff in place that we do on the other corner. So those are the 2 quotes for camera expansion. I know it's something that folks have asked about a lot just because of some of what's been happening on Howard. So wanted to get those numbers for you for this meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the quotes.
Yeah, I have a, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I'm having computer trouble.
We hear
this
you.
morning. Okay. I have a question. One of the things that came up when we talked about that, are any of those cameras going to sort of also point in some way or other or cover any part of Greenview? In other words, if people are walking to or from Howard or Jarvis?
From what I understand, it covers the corner of, you know, that intersection. And these cameras are going to be more like ground level, so we can see activity of, you know, right now, these are the cameras we have are like up on the top of the building, so you can see vehicles and stuff. These cameras that are being added are going to be able to see, you know, actual people that will be walking on the sidewalk, which we feel is very important for the crime element.
Right, I agree, Charlotte, but I'm just wondering if any of them are, could be positioned so that they could take in part. I'm not talking about all the way up and down Greenview between Jarvis and Howard, but at least part of the area coming, around Jarvis and around Howard on Greenview, so that people going between the two areas have a little bit of coverage too. That's all.
It will cover, like maybe, west, just a little bit west of the laundromat and a little bit, by the end of, Greenview by the, by Eddie's, yeah, by Eddie's, parking lot. That should cover that.
The ones
what-
on, sorry.
Go ahead.
The ones on Jarvis, when we had initially talked to him, there was going to be one at the corner of Jarvis pointing down north on Greenview, because the city made Dan take all those lights out
Right.
that he had
Oh.
there.
Really?
They were about, I can't remember how much the licensing was, and I think they're about $250 to $500 per year per light in licensing.
For the public way use, even though it's, if it's attached to a building and it sticks out more than a couple inches, you have to do public way use, and it's
Right.
crazy expensive, which is annoying. So,
Okay.
yeah. So the short answer to your question, David, is yeah, the cameras at both of those corners would have some view of Greenview as well.
Okay. Thanks. That's all. I wanted to
Yeah.
just clarify that.
All right, so we had a motion to approve. Did we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, so I'll take it back to the meeting agenda. So we did cameras. The next item up for the agenda is board up and glass damage rebate policy. So background on this, can everybody see the document? Am I still screen sharing? Great.
Yes.
So I was talking to Charlotte a little bit about this. It's something that sort of came out of SSA 43 on Devon Avenue during the 2020 civil unrest. They had adopted a policy that, when we'd get requests for businesses that have been damaged by criminal activity, whether that's, break-ins or vandalism or things like that, typically it's glass damage. And so that they started getting requests, for BIP funding to replace windows that had been knocked out, and for assistance with boarding up windows while they were waiting for them to get fixed and things like this. And so what that commission chose to do was they voted to cap it at $2,000 and to basically spin it off of BIP and have it be a rebate of up to 50% of whatever insurance doesn't cover, up to a max of $2,000. Because we did have several businesses that at that time, were dealing with some damage from the unrest. And then it popped up again a couple of weeks ago this year because there was a couple of hate crime incidents where a couple of Jewish-owned businesses were vandalized a couple of weeks ago, and they had reached out about getting some assistance with glass replacement because their insurance deductible didn't cover any of the damage. So we wanted to clarify and codify this across all of our SSAs because we know that it's come up on Howard Street too. Last year, I think the only BIPs that we had were businesses that were replacing windows that were damaged by gunfire or robbery. So we wanted to clarify that this is the policy for that, to spin it off from BIP so that it doesn't impact future BIP eligibility, because that was a concern from some folks, particularly, people that have, maybe had this happen more than once that would like to apply for BIP to do something like security shutters or film on the glass and that sort of thing. We don't want to foreclose them from being eligible for assistance with those longer term fixes. And we also, see it as business retention. We don't want crime to be a deterrent to businesses continuing to operate in the community. We hate to have there be a situation where, you know, somebody gets hit and then says, the heck with it, I'm moving to the suburbs. You know, we want to encourage our businesses to stay in Rogers Park. So that's sort of the genesis for this. So the policy also requires that any business that's seeking funding through this has to submit a police report for any damage that they're seeking. So it doesn't include, you know, severe weather or wear and tear. It's specific to criminal activity. So it could be vandalism, it could be burglary, it could be gunfire, because those are the ones that we've had crop up in the last year or two. So we just wanted to codify it. I'll open it up if anyone has any questions. Charlotte, you're muted. Sorry. David, I think you're also muted.
Yeah, I just muted
there you
to
go.
hear what everybody else was saying. So,
Okay, hi. I was gonna ask you, is this the program, is this the thing, the program that you're representing for us to follow through with? Or is there going to be a more formal, you know, sort of policy that we're gonna use? Like, I'd like to know if there's a cap on the, you know, what we're signing up for, a little more in detail.
Yeah, so the thought today is just to sort of adopt the draft program guidelines, and these will be shared with Karen at the city as well. But the cap on it, based on what SSA 43 sort of voted to do in 2020, was that they capped it at 50% of whatever's not covered by insurance, up to a max of $2,000. So it's lower than the BIP. And it's very sort of specific and targeted to particular incidents for which people have to have submitted a police report.
Okay.
Because they have to provide, we're asking them to provide that if they're applying.
I mean, a cap of $2,000 is, you know, at least something we could offer them. That's fine. I would agree with that. How's everybody else feel?
yeah, and I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So we're not going to, this policy doesn't require the store person to have insurance coverage of any type necessarily in order to apply for this.
They do. So I do have some language in here where they have to attest that their insurance doesn't cover this particular damage. Because most do. What we've learned from folks that have sought this assistance sort of on in the past, the issue has been that most of them that have insurance, and even those that have specific plate glass damage riders, the deductibles end up being too high to actually cover it.
Oh, no, absolutely. I see where that's correct. I was just wondering whether it would be, you know, whether we want the person, the owner who's applying to have had some insurance coverage as opposed to not insuring anything at all for this. But I guess if there's a limit of $2,000, that it probably doesn't make any difference whether they have the insurance or not. That's all we can pay out. I was just trying to, you know, encourage everybody to get that. And also, what if somebody wants to make, can you, as far as what the replacement, what the cost can cover on the replacement window, if somebody wants to do something like put their, you know, lettering in the window, their name or something like that, or make some modification, is that allowed? Is that addressed in here at all? Or if we want to recommend that somebody, for instance, might get plexiglass or the film that you were talking about, the anti-graffiti or anti-scratching film, things like that when they apply, the staff would make recommendations and that would be considered in whether to approve this or not?
Yeah, so the language that I've got in there, basically, specifies that this is basically intended to make you whole and repair whatever has been damaged. So if you had your lettering on your window before and that window gets knocked out, we would include the lettering again, because that's what you had before. And part of this is that I do want to, have this channel open to have discussions with folks about, future hardening of business premises that would go to the BIP program. We want people to still have eligibility to go for that. And particularly, businesses that unfortunately have been damaged more than once, of which we've had several, to leave the possibility open for working with them to use BIP, to do things like either coatings or roll-up shutters, in places where we know it's a recurring issue.
Okay, well, Cindy, I guess the reason what you just explained is, to me at least, the reason I was bringing that up. If people who are having to make use of this program can apply for, can discuss those sorts of things with staff. In other words, even if they only get the $2,000 or whatever it happens to be out of this program to make them whole for X damage, if they can at the same time accomplish some of the things you're talking about by utilizing one of the other programs at the same time, not have to go back and replace anything or redo something that could have, might have saved money in the first place by redoing. That's what I'm wondering about. If they can somehow bring that into the discussion, not necessarily having it completely paid for by this expense, but trying to at least do those things at once if they want to do it.
Yeah, and I will say that one of the businesses, that sort of was the genesis for this in another district, that I've been talking with about repairing glass damage now for I think a second time. They've wanted for a long time to do those security improvements, but they're far exceed the $2,000 cap for this. So we didn't want this to count against their eligibility for doing a larger project, because it was roll-up shutters, which when they got quotes, it was like $8,000 was, I think, the low bid for that project. So, even at 50%, that would pretty far exceed the limit here. But they could get $4,000 from BIP, and we wanted to spin it off so that they're seeking assistance with the glass didn't block them from getting BIP to do the larger security improvements that are needed, because they've now had windows knocked out several times.
Yeah,
So do
I'm
we need to
sorry.
vote on this?
I'm a little bit confused. If there was, all I'm asking is exactly the kind of thing you're talking about. Could we possibly put some language in here in this program description and rules to alert that people in that kind of situation that they should bring up that, or they could bring up that, or you folks might bring up that with them to try to coordinate that, so that, in other words, even obviously keeping the $2,000 limit, that money could still possibly be used to do all of those things at one time, using additional funding sources instead of duplicating the expense, or even worse, having to go back and redo something that they paid for with this that they have to redo. So it was just putting the language in here that I was referring to.
Yeah, and that's an easy enough amendment to make. I think, the other issue with why, we didn't sort of combine them in that previous case was, the need for repairing a window that was knocked out is pretty time sensitive. They wanted to get it, done quickly, versus the security shutters. It was going to take some time for them to get the quotes, and trying to do it all at once, holds up sort of the timeline on getting things fixed. So this is just to fix stuff, and then, encourage from that for folks to continue on and do a BIP for the other security upgrades that they may be looking to make, because those will be subject to the same rules where they have to get multiple quotes.
Right, I would, yeah, if you could just put in something, as you said a moment ago, that lets people know that they could bring that up, or that it's not prohibited, it's not excluded, if they happen to be ready to do it or want to do it or can afford to do it at the same time, that this dollar limit applies, but they can also consider things like that, you know, that are approved by the staff or in coordination with discussions with the staff.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll clarify that in the document.
Thank you.
Any
So I
other
think-
questions?
Well, we're all in agreement that we're gonna add this, right?
I think we
We're
had a
gonna
motion, but I don't think that we had a second.
add- Okay,
Well, I'll second if nobody else. I'll second.
Thanks. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
hi.
Aye.
Great. All right, I'll go back to the agenda one more time. So the next voting item is we have a BIP application from Factory Theater. I'll bring up their documentation. Basically, what they're applying for is actually a BIP application for installing or rectifying some fire doors between their space and the space that will hopefully soon be Howard Street Brewing. This is something that got flagged on the last inspection and is needing to be fixed before the brewery can open. So Factory has applied and submitted quotes for the work to be done to get these fire doors installed that weren't there before. So they have two quotes, one for $12,800 and then the second one for $15,040. And they've submitted a completed application signed by the building owner and the representative from Factory Theater. So the paperwork is there. So we wanted to, follow in procedure and take it to commissioners for a vote to approve. I don't have drawings because they would be really boring drawings if I did. It would be of a door with some technical stuff on it.
Did he get three estimates?
The program guidelines require 2.
I see.
Okay. Well, fire door seems worthwhile, so and this one I'll move to approve if no other people left. Do we get our name on the door or?
Did you say 12,800?
For the first one, yeah. The second one was 15.
15,000.
Yeah, because
How
there's
could it-
carpentry that's part of this too.
What?
Yeah, so this is 4 fire doors plus the carpentry around it.
Oh, 4 fire doors. Okay.
Yeah,
This,
Well, I would approve the one that's 12,800.
Oh.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of money for 4 doors, but
in either case, this one will be capped at the $5,000 statutory max in the program guidelines because it's 50% match up to 5,000, which they'll be at either way. So they'll be maxing out at 5.
Yeah.
I'll vote to approve it.
Yeah,
okay, I would imagine they have to meet the code too and the fire.
exactly.
That is exactly what this is centered around, and it is mainly centered around the brewery more than it is the theater. They're simply not allowed to open after their building inspections. And so we're trying to help them out because that's going to be beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, it's been a journey with that build out for sure. Just the way that the space was I guess subdivided. So yeah.
Okay. I'll motion to approve it.
Great,
I'll second.
thanks.
Tim, I'm assuming that you're abstaining, and Cindy, would you make sure it's noted in the minutes
Yeah.
that Tim is abstaining?
Thank you, Sandy.
Uh-huh. And I'm sorry, Charlotte, I think that's you that is giving us really bad static. can you mute when you're not speaking and maybe, thank you.
Sorry,
And-
I muted you just because of the
Oh.
feedback. But I think we're getting near to the end of the agenda here.
And Cindy, I need to go to my other meeting. So I'm
Right.
gonna be, nice seeing
Yeah,
everyone.
I'm gonna be
Nice
heading to
seeing you,
that meeting
Sandy.
after we wrap
Thanks,
here.
Sandy.
Thanks. Mhm.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. So those are the voting items. Thanks everyone for being here. I do still have, you know, the discussion item on here for Chuck Howard. We didn't really get into that just yet. Lizzie did send us a proposal for A5 sort of portion of the Chuck Howard budget. That doesn't include the, you know, what in the past it was 5 grain events that did sort of, you know, day of logistics and vendor management and artist outreach and coordination. They weren't available to be part of the event this year. So the quote that we have currently, which Lizzie, I don't know if you want to pull it up, only covers A5's portion of the scope of work. So there would still be an additional subcontractor, is my understanding, that we haven't gotten quotes from yet.
Okay.
So the fees that we sent you, Sandy, or Cindy, sorry. We took the Chuck Howard Street Year 2 PA project authorization from, that was signed and approved February 2020, that included A5 and 5 grain. Those fees include an event subcontractor. It just wouldn't be. So those fees will cover A5 and an event subcontractor under A5,
Okay.
not in addition to those fees.
And that total, remind me, I don't have
I
the
can
email
pull
in
it
front of
up.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can pull it up. I think it was what the commissioners had approved. Everybody had approved February 2020 for the event that was then canceled. So we just wanted to make it, assuming it would be similar in scope and goal and size. Kind of, we'd already gone through the process of figuring out what was in budget versus fees, and so we wanted to make it really easy for everybody to kind of, we've already done the work. It's just 2 years later
Yeah.
that we get to approve it or get to run with it. So I can pull that up. Yeah, the total fees for, and this is, yeah, marketing and event, all like putting on the event, recruiting artists, recruiting band, managing day of, setup, marketing it. Silverman can help with PR this time around since they're engaged. We had the total fees around 22,000, which was the amount that was approved February 2020.
Okay.
For the July 2020 event.
And that was a one-day event?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember after the 2019 event, we talked about like, could this in the future go to 2-day? And we said, let's get it really solid down with 1 day and make it like, you know, figure out all the kinks, make it what we want. And then we can expand it to 2-day. And it would be easy to expand to 2-day by, like, since the artists they started the art the day before, we could start to build like pre-event, you know, sneak previews, or maybe that's like just a more smaller, like family kind of community event the day before, and then a bigger street festival the day after. So I think that was the idea, was to work up to that. But in year 2, sort of get our feet really fully under us, knowing what we're doing. And since we've all experienced COVID, there, you know, things have changed. Black Lives Matters campaign, you know, all these things have really like changed in our city, our neighborhoods, our country, our world. Like, we should revisit some of the goals and structure around the event to make sure that it's, you know, it's not just, I don't want to just repeat the 2019 event. I want it to be, Cindy and I were talking about this, very inclusive, diverse of the community. And still, you know, we got 5,000 people to the street, people who don't come to Howard Street and don't go to Bedu and don't go to Lost Areas. and they did and spent money or came back and knew about it. So, and had a great time. So we want to make sure we balance all of that in putting it on again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really a good time.
Yeah.
That was a great event.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and I think then too with this, you know, proposed budget, you know, being where it is, that does still leave room, you know, in the calendar year budget for events that are going to be going on Jarvis that we don't directly produce, but that will be assisting to fund now that they're part of the SSA. Plus, you know, Halloween trick or treat. And then I've also been in contact with a number of the organizations around on Paulina. They are interested in getting together to jointly put on a neighborhood block party for the community, which it'll probably, it sounds like, either be focused around Juneteenth or back to school, but trying to do some more community programming as well. But the top piece of feedback that I got from a lot of the leadership in those organizations was concern about wanting Chalk Howard to be more inclusive and to better reflect the immediate residents that are closest to Howard, and the diversity of the community, and to include more of those folks as artists, as performers, as vendors, and all of that, which I think is, you know, is really valuable feedback. We want to, you know, work with our community partners and be including folks. So that's sort of one of the things that's I think going to be more top of mind this year as we're getting ready for this event.
Has anybody picked a day for this event?
So I think when we met last, we talked about August 6th.
Mhm. August 6th or 13th.
Yeah.
We don't want to do
Okay.
it too soon. I mean, this is actually about the time we were starting in 2020. The date of the
Yeah.
agreement was like February 8th.
Yeah.
So we're not behind, but we want to give ourselves some time,
Right.
Yeah.
and then work around the other events in the neighborhood in the city.
Would you like to vote on this today?
Well, I have a couple of questions too. Sorry. Lizzie, can you give us for the next meeting something in writing, at least an outline of these different points that you talked about? And just so we know what we're doing. And I would hope that, because I think one of the other things that's changed is there are more businesses now on both sides of Howard, you know, going west, that when you give us something that it talks about trying to coordinate events, in other words, involving the community, but also involving the Evanston side, if possible, at least reaching out to whoever is trying to promote that, and the Howard businesses on the Chicago side west, and also coordinating some sort of event that day or tie-in or something for the Jarvis Square folks to do, so that again, people who were coming to one event would be aware of both places, and possibly, you know, get more synergy in terms of crowds and drawing people. So that's one request, that we get something in at least an outline in writing, that we can have. The second one is Cindy's comment about additional artists. I would hope that if the focus of this is the sort of illusionary chalk art was in the last couple of Chalk Howard sorts of projects, that it makes it clear that the artists that are going to be solicited or that are going to be involved are artists who can produce that kind of work. I don't know technically what it takes to make something, you know, a drawing like that, a picture, whatever it's called. You can tell I'm a big artist. A picture like that lends itself to the 3D sorts of things. But I'm assuming from the, you know, when we've talked with the people who have done that it's a little bit specialized. You have to have some idea of what'll work and what won't. So I would like that to be clarified, so that there's not any expectations raised that are not realistic on the one hand, or that turn this into an entirely different kind of event than we were able to get people in to see, and that it worked somewhat last year with even with the things in the stores themselves. So that's my second point.
I think that we should probably, put a vote to approve it so they can get started on it now, because these kind of events take a long time to plan. And, we did approve it in 2020, and I don't see any reason why we couldn't go ahead and approve it right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
I'm
in
willing-
response to that, David, I don't know if you can see the screen share. So I did pull up the project authorization that Lizzie had shared with us, which is pretty closely mirrors what was approved in 2020 that we ended up not moving forward on because of the pandemic. But this does spell out sort of the scope of work. So yeah, like there's, if you want to speak to that, Lizzie.
Yeah, and also to your point about the artists, from 2019, we got really clued in on the 3D chalk artist scene, mostly nationally, but also internationally through the Georgia Chalk Artist Guild, through the Florida Chalk Artist Guild. Nate has lots of connections, and he's not available this year, but he can connect us to Chris. I know he works with a lot. I can't think of his last name right now. We had 6 chalk artists in 2019. We've kept up with them. I follow them. I like them. We can go back to them. I think the big thing too is try to find diversity. It's not, in 2019, there was not much diversity among professional chalk artists, but let's make sure we find a way to have diversity among the artists. But there has to be a certain caliber. And last time we had written out what those qualifications were that we were looking for. So, if you were going to be the premier featured artist, you had to meet these qualifications and so on and so forth. We had the stipends, travel stipends, we had it all mapped out. So we would refer back to that and keep it, really tight and professional. And then you can see at the top. So I think with involving Jarvis, I'd love for that to be a discussion that we have, and maybe Renee and Cindy and I kind of have a working conversation about it and then come back. We're not real sticklers about fees and scope. So if I assume there would be something happening on Jarvis and we'd cross promote. If it gets to be that, A5 is setting up the stage and recruiting bands and placing artists, and it's like 2 different events happening at the same time, it might affect fees. But, there should be something happening in both places, and we should be allocating areas together. So we don't know what that is yet, but we'll figure it out. And there are certainly ways that it could fit within these fees.
Okay, so I'm willing to support to vote for this now, but let me be very clear. So Lizzie, you're going to incorporate the reference to those qualifications in this project scope or something. You're going to give the staff and us some tool to point to if they get pushback or they get requests from folks who are not germane to the kind of art, let's say, in this that you described. I just want to again try to make that clear at the outset that there's a set of parameters, and that's it. And then as far as Jarvis, I was just talking about some tie-in. I wasn't even talking about, whatever you folks come up with, I'm sure will be nice, but I was just talking about, again, just some way so that one area supports what the other area does at the same time, whatever it happens to be in scope.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be the one recruiting artists and doing the artist outreach, and I've got the parameters. I'll make sure everybody involved knows them, and hiring of artists will involve more. Will involve Cindy. It'll involve,
And
this group.
Cindy, I don't see any reason why we couldn't at least ask the Evanston side businesses to promote this, whether it's putting up posters or whatever, to promote this event, even if that's all that's done as far as Evanston goes. There's just a lot of exposure there, and we should try to take advantage of it to increase the traffic on
Yeah, and I
Howard.
think historically we have, like posters is a pretty easy ask, and that is something that we've done for all of our events.
Cindy,
Yeah.
just be mindful SSA dollars with it remaining within the boundaries of the SSA.
Yeah, I mean,
When
it's
you
just for,
in the
for
posters
posters,
and
we,
stuff.
yeah, we print them and we put them everywhere.
All right. And based on what Charlotte has said before, maybe this is another opportunity to take out an ad in one of the Evanston, in something in Evanston too, to try to draw more people. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be part of it. You know, I think, you know, for some of the Jarvis events that were done last year, we did buy some ads, I think, on Evanston Now and Daily Northwestern.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
as far as promoting to try and draw from that community, that's, you know, there's definitely precedent for that.
Yeah, it's more about like target audience.
Yeah.
Like programming.
Okay, so you want to vote on it?
Yeah, somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the budget for the summer event for Chuck Howard for A5.
All right. Do we have a second?
well, I can second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
All right, thanks, folks. I think that concludes everything that was on the agenda. And my phone is
Thank
ringing,
you.
which I'm not going to answer.
Okay.
That's the wrong agenda. All right, so
Hi, Karen.
yeah, yeah. Just another reminder. I know I sent around the email. I think a couple of you had already responded about the SSA new commissioner training that Karen's doing. I think March 2nd is your day, right, Karen?
Wednesday, yes.
Yeah, the Wednesday. So I know I've gotten RSVPs from a couple of you that I'm going to be forwarding on to the city. But for those that I hadn't heard from, you know, just something to take a look at. I'll probably send it around again.
If you have not been to a SSA training, commissioners, I have told Mark that these really need to be pushed harder to get you guys to come and not just learn, but if you got a bunch of questions that you want to ask and throw at us or suggestions, this is the place to do it. And you don't have to leave the comforts of your business or your
Yeah.
home.
In prior years, everyone had to go
Had to
downtown
go
in person.
downtown,
We don't have to
where
do
I
that
am.
anymore.
Right, you
So
don't have to do that anymore. And lastly, before we go, I just want to say shout out to Charlotte. I come all the way from Hyde Park to shop at her store. I love my green buggy.
Thank
My
you.
plants are in it. I
excellent.
love your store.
Thank you so much.
I am in the area often. I was just there, 3 weeks ago. So I don't necessarily tell you all I'm coming, but I do drive around Charlotte. I drive past you every time I'm up there. So just to let you all know, I'm not just a city employee sitting here in this. I'm always out and about looking at your areas
It's always good to see you.
and spending money.
Thank you. We do appreciate it.
regarding the SSA training,
Yeah.
they said, I can't unfortunately make Wednesday because I'm going to the Free Day exhibit, but I did send a reply to Jennifer Nagel.
Magallanes.
Yes,
Magai.
and to see if I could go on the Tuesday, but I haven't heard anything.
I'm sure you can, but she'll confirm all of that.
Okay.
We're currently having a birthday party here right now, so
Ah,
everybody's like
excellent.
on the other side of me. But she'll confirm that for you, Renee.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask, does planning have any sort of language that was submitted in the legislature for the business improvement district legislation?
So that was Cindy, I think Mark sent you an email on that about things being postponed, so you can speak to that. It's all been tabled for now because it's still in Springfield.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I was wondering, whether there's whether that language is on some website like the legislative draft
Not yet.
website.
Not yet.
Okay.
You will all be made aware as soon as things move a little bit, but they haven't, because everything is still in Springfield now. So.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to sign out, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks everybody for being here. We will see y'all in March.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Uh,
Hey Cindy, real quick,
Yeah.
who am I, the application?
Yeah,
Can
so
you-
I'll send around an email copying you and Carolina, because she usually is the person that handles like all the administrative stuff with commissioner onboarding.
Okay,
But I'll send you an email and I'll copy her just so that everybody's on the same page as far as getting the application in. And then
okay,
if I didn't already forward you the information about commissioner training, I'll do that too, because I think they do want like commissioner applicants and pending commissioners to attend as well. I know we've done that in prior years,
mm-hmm.
but it's a Zoom
Okay.
meeting. So it's in a couple of weeks.
Okay, all right, that would be great.
So yeah, sorry I didn't get back to you late yesterday. I was on the phone like most of the afternoon. And I had another SSA meeting for one of my other groups, but
Okay.
yeah, stay tuned for an email later this morning.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
got to jump to another meeting, but we'll be in touch.
Okay,
Thank you so
bye-bye.
much for coming today.
Sure, thank you,
All right.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.